I'm
Okay,
ready.
cool. So I have an unusual amount of energy tonight. Normally I'm pretty energetic, but it's extra tonight because I'm not normally in the kitchen, and I was cooking up a storm. So that was a lot of fun, and I've sort of got that leftover energy, which will be nice bringing it into here, I think.
For sure, definitely. You should definitely take advantage of this and see how you can use leverage it. Take it's an opportunity every time.
Definitely. All right. Well, let's bring that energy here into the podcast. And what I'm going to do, Sim, is, well, let's talk about it. When did we first hear about each other? How did, like, I've known you've been around for like a year and a half now, I reckon. But when did you first find out about me, and when did I find out about you?
Well, I think I first saw the initial videos of you when you were under like 10,000 subscribers or something like that. So it was
Mm.
probably like 2 years ago or something. And then I didn't have my own channel. I didn't have my own blog at that time. I kept simply looking at your book recommendations.
Mm.
They're great. They were very comprehensive and I remember like when you passed 10,000 or something like that, then you started to bring more of your own natural quirkiness and your own character into it, and that kind of started to resonate more with you. You entered these kinds of random bits into your videos about
Mm.
where you started rambling, and you did some funny vlogs, and that's where I started to curious. Hey, that guy is kind of cool, and he he resembles kind of my own sense of humor in a sense as well. So we eventually, after I started my own, YouTube channel and blog, then I contacted you. I believe, like, yeah, maybe we can do some sort of a collab.
Mm.
And I think like the first thing we did together was like some sort of a video where I simply did a voiceover for one of your animations, and after that, I think we've been simply, on and off, staying in touch
Mm.
briefly.
Yeah, I've kept a little subtle eye on your journey, and your name sometimes comes up in my social circles. We're like, man, Sim's just fucking killing it, you know. So, good things about you, Sim. I've seen good things and I've heard good things, and yeah, I tap into your content every now and then, and yeah, in the past 2 years, you have certainly come a long way, and I feel very, very blessed to have you here to talk about some biohacking today.
Well, definitely me too. Like that's I believe like the best thing is about this YouTube and social media is that you can connect with these different people from different fields. Despite even though you're in Australia, I'm in Estonia, we have like 12-hour time difference almost, and still we're still able to do it.
Yeah. Oh, do you ever get any comments on your voice or your accent?
Oh yeah, like definitely there are. So like it's a like it's almost binary. Like some people completely hate it. They say like, what the hell is this? Is this even real? Are you trying to fake your deep voice or something? Or
Yeah.
this guy sounds like Russian or something like that. And then there's also the others who are like almost uh, magnified, or attracted to it, even in a terms of like they're
Mm.
loving it. So it's like back and 50-50. Like some people love it, some people hate it. So
Mm. Yeah, I'm definitely a big fan. It's almost not quite, but it's almost like the Terminator. That's what it reminds me of. Almost like Arnold style, but just a little bit different. Anyway, let's get straight into the biohacking stuff. So I tell you what you do, what we'll do. Instead of we're gonna skip the sort of novice route. I'm sorry, novices, but I'm ready to jump right into some very specific questions about biohacking. And just before we do that, I'd love to hear just a short overview, in your own words, Sim, what it is that you do and your involvement with biohacking, how you found it, what you're doing now, just like a brief few-minute overview.
hmm. Yeah, like well, let's first like define what is biohacking. It sounds very kind of conspicuous, and this kind of very conspiracy theory almost, people trying to hack their biology or something like that. But in reality, it's simply, if you put it in a very like a very metaphorically, then it's the art and science of becoming superhuman, or leveraging different types of technology, leveraging different types of strategies, nutritional strategies, sleep strategies, to improve and optimize your biology and taking control of the environment. And what I like to call it is more like simply human optimization of improving your life, improving your performance, and improving your health, all that kind of stuff. And it's also like very interesting to note that at the moment it's very trendy to use the word biohacking. Then in reality, what people have been doing it, for thousands of years almost. Like, for instance, one of the most popular biohacks in these parts of Europe is like taking a sauna and also altering it with, going to an ice bath, altering back and forth between it. That's a biohack because it literally has a profound impact on your physiology and your metabolism, and more so than, regular showers or something like that. So, like, it's a biohack, but people have been doing it for so long. So where do you draw the line? Where do you define what is biohacking and what is simply, functional health and functional fitness? People who drink coffee, they're still like biohackers in a sense, because the caffeine is a neurostimulant, and taking a fish oil capsule is also like biohacking. And the difference is only a matter of degree of how far you're actually taking it. So that's how I define biohacking. Simply like human optimization and functional health and fitness. And also, like, what I've been doing is I started off after, like, during high school, you were also like exercising. That's kind of biohacking, but it's still like for the purpose of getting ripped and building muscle. So after I finished high school, I started to take it more seriously in this regard, that I learned more about nutrition, read some books, wrote some books, and then kept on experimenting, doing different experiments. At first, it was simply like exercise, different types of high intensity exercise, nutrition, intermittent fasting. Then I stumbled on the ketogenic diet, which is one of my most areas of my expertise and focus with keto. And then there was like meditation. I've meditated for years. Biofeedback. Then there's like a light therapy with red light therapy, blue light therapy, and and recently I've been bringing in some more quantifying as well, measuring my sleep, measuring my activity levels, my readiness, and using different types of gadgets and technology to make myself superhuman, quote unquote.
Yeah, I saw you. I reckon I've seen 2 videos. One, you had that aura ring on your pinky finger or something to track your sleep, and the other, that's the one. And the other one, I did dip into that content with you shooting red lasers on your body or something. That's that's like next level stuff. That's awesome. So I just quickly want to follow my curiosity and go back to when you were talking about saunas and the definition of biohacking. So the way I see it, there's like a threshold, and my question is, like, isn't going out in a sauna essentially simulating the environment from the past before modern civilization, where humans were exposed to high temperatures more often? So essentially just going to a sauna and getting really hot, that's just simulating how we've naturally evolved, if we want to go by that theory. And so a biohack would be staying in that sauna for a period of time that's more than what our ancestors would have been exposed to in a natural environment. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, like totally agree with you. Like, like people and hunter-gatherer in the Paleolithic era, they would never have to get exposed to the high temperatures that you would in a sauna. Like, in a sauna, it goes up to like 100 degrees Celsius,
okay.
which I don't know, which is like 200 degrees Fahrenheit or something like that. So like as a hunter-gatherer, you wouldn't get exposed to that kind of environment anyway, and you definitely wouldn't experience this drastic shift in temperatures of being in 100 degrees Celsius for 20 minutes and then jumping into an ice lake with just few degrees Celsius. Your hunter-gatherer would never experience something like that. So it's still like biohacking in a sense of as a human being using your intelligence and your cultural background to influence your primal physiology and biology. But the example is a good point. Like the sauna is a unnatural environment. It's a culturally constructed setting.
Okay, so all right, I want to dig this out a bit more. So let's say let's make it not a biohack, and the way I see ourselves doing that is, let's say we lower the temperature of the sauna to a level, let's say 40 degrees, and let's say Celsius, 40 degrees Celsius, I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but 40 degrees Celsius, and let's say our ancestors were only ever exposed to temperatures no higher than 40 degrees Celsius, and let's say they were exposed to that for no more than 1 hour a day, and then the rest they went in the shade. I'm just making up bullshit. This is a hypothetical scenario. So, take us to 2018. If we then, let's say we spend all day in the air conditioning, we like it nice and cool at 22 degrees, and we're all comfortable. But let's say then we go into a sauna for 1 hour a day, just like our ancestral scenario, and we go in the sauna, set the temperature to 40 degrees, we stay in there for an hour, and then we come back into our air conditioning. So what I'm trying to do is cancel out the biohack and just say that what we're doing now here in 2018 by going in the sauna and back in the AC, that's essentially the same thing as what we would have done in the ancestral past. So there's no biohack.
Right.
To make it a biohack, what would we do? We would raise the temperature in the sauna. That's kind of what I'm getting at, and that's what I see as a biohack, where you actually deviate from what we'd normally do.
Yeah, it's a good point, but for something to be a biohack, it would have to be a deviation from what is natural to your body. Like, like it's a good example. For instance, if you were to simply go to the sauna and to mimic an ancestral environment of a regular jungle with ordinary temperatures, then it would be simply it would be still a biohack in a sense of you changing your environment, but it's not a biohack in the glamorous sense. It's you simply turning off the central heating in a sense.
Like there's the glamour biohack, and then there's just the sort of normal biohack. I don't really consider it the normal biohacks.
So the normal biohack, it would be simply taking care of your health or simply altering your environment. But the biohack, it would be something deviating from something deviating from a natural thing.
Oh yes, and that's the definition I would use, because I think like with modern civilization, no one really knows what's normal anymore, and not even everyone believes in evolution. So I'm not saying evolution is 100% correct, but as far as I'm concerned, I believe that is the best theory we've got to explain how we got here and how we should be acting, etc. But it's crazy. Like civilization, do you know how many things we think are normal but aren't? Like just one here, Siim. You can list yours in a minute, but just one that really blew my mind was I don't know if this counts, but eggs and bacon. That is an invention of modern marketing. Who the fuck decided to put eggs and bacon together? Like, and we just treat that as normal. We never question it. So it's just crazy. Do you know any other?
Yeah, exactly. Like also like people taking granted for things like having access to fruit 24/7 year round, tropical fruit whenever I can go to a supermarket and buy some mangoes in cold wintry Estonia. That would never happen. That's a biohack as well, in a sense that if I were to live, if my body were to be adapted to environment that is used to only this kind of cold, then it's going to have, and then the light cycles as well. That's a whole nother story. Like light is actually much more important than nutrition, how it affects your physiology. And if you consume this kind of a fruit in an environment where your body is adapted to, when your body is in a distinctive metabolic state that isn't capable of metabolizing that fruit more effectively, then that can lead to some other issues down the line. So it's definitely something we as people take for granted.
Yeah, it's like even these blue blockers, I call them a biohack just because it's easy to say, but I don't consider it a biohack because I'm staring at some very artificial blue LEDs right now. That is not normal. That is not normal as far as evolution is concerned. So this is just, I don't know, being proactive about my health, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like it's still a biohack, but it's newbie level biohack.
Yes, you could say that. All right, anyway.
It's like stuff everyone should do, like if you learn more about these things, how blood sugar affects your overall health, how blue light affects your sleep cycles, then I think like it's our responsibility to take something or to implement some protective measures against that. So it's like natural thing, I believe.
Yeah, have you I bought 2 pairs of glasses. These are from Dave Asprey's biohacked.com. So these are just the normal day walkers. Have you tried the ones that also block out the green light and some other light? The red ones, like the red glasses?
Like the red ones are.
Yeah, those ones. Do you wear them?
Yeah, like those things are quite amazing, you know.
Yeah.
I've used like the regular blue lock. I have the ones you have as well, but there are like different types of blue blockers that they block different wavelengths. And what I noticed was, you know, after at first maybe like the initial few years I was using like regular blue blockers, and recently a few months ago I swapped over to these ones, and I noticed a huge difference. Like I measured my Aura Ring stats as well. And when I was wearing these, then I was gaining like 10 to 15% increased REM sleep.
Wow.
You know, it's crazy. That's like that's a huge difference, and you can definitely notice like how much of even just a little bit of blue light can alter your circadian rhythms and disrupt your sleep.
Huh.
And the retinas are the most important part, where the most of the circadian signaling is transmitted through. And even, you know, exposing your elbows or skin to blue light is going to, it can suppress melatonin, the sleep hormone. So like the blue blockers are the least that everyone can do. So
can you put those red blockers on real quick? It's good for a thumbnail.
Yeah, like they're crazy. Like you literally look like a serial killer.
Yes.
You actually you don't see much. And at night I can also like almost accidentally walk into walls or something, because it blocks out a lot of light.
Yes.
And but other than that, your eyes and your brain get quite used to it after like 5 minutes or so.
Okay.
And it's quite good. And also, like, you look like Riddick from the Chronicles of Riddick, Vin Diesel.
Oh, now I actually stopped wearing them just due to, I haven't tracked my sleep like you have, which I should, but I just got very, you know, like we're all addicted, not all of us, but I know I am. You know, I'm still hooked up with my phone all the time, especially in the evenings. And when and I'm generally active in the evenings, I should start calming down. But, you know, when I put the red blockers on or whatever, the dark red ones you just showed us, I like can't see anything. You know, you say you're bumping into walls, so maybe you value the sleep benefits more than I do, and maybe it's worth it for you to not be able to see and to bump into walls. But for me, it was just too much, and now I just use these. But like, do you have a struggle with not being able to see things? Or?
Well, it's like depends on like it's also like a matter of first of all coming to terms with why would you need to wear these blue blockers. You know, yeah, like there's a difference between staring at screens, and there's a difference at dimming down the lights in your house overall. You know, using using different incandescent light bulbs, and also like using different apps on your smartphones that are automatically going to reduce the amount of blue light, and those are already going to protect you to a certain degree. And using these very extreme blue blockers, I still going to use them because I want to, you know, have a positive effect. But you can use them only like in certain circumstances where you don't, where you're like out of the norm. You would want to first take control of your environment and, you know, turn down the lights, to turn down the blue light on your screen first, and then adding on some other stuff before you know, going for the serious biohacks.
Do you think there's much difference between using these glasses as opposed to using an app like f.lux?
Well, the flux isn't going to, it's not going to block out all of the light. There's still like a small amount of flickering that's going to happen. And that's still like it can suppress melatonin. But the yellow ones that you have, they're all like quite good, and you don't actually want to be blocking out all the blue lights right away after sunset. You know, you want to, it's also like a gradual process. You know, as the sunset goes down, the light frequencies are also gonna change over the course of that. So it's not, I'm gonna start wearing these red ones right after 5 p.m. or something like that. You know, I'm gonna first I'm gonna use the yellow ones, and then I'm gonna, as the night progresses, I'll be maybe just using the red ones like an hour or two before bed. So
okay, gotcha. All right, before we revisit this, I've got a lot of other questions to get through, and then like at the end, I've got a list of, I forgot his name. I think he runs the website selfhacked.com. Have you seen that?
Joseph Cohen, yeah.
Yeah, have you talked to him or not?
Yeah, I've met him, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, I think he had an interview with Jack Cruz, I think his name is,
Yeah, yeah,
and they both listed 8 things in an order of importance. Like we've got circadian rhythm, DHA, limiting blue light, etc., etc. So I want to see how you would order it in terms of importance, but we'll wait to the end because
yeah.
I have got some very specific questions about each one. So let's bang through it. All right, fasting. Just briefly, I want to hear about this 5-day fast. Why did you do it, and what benefits or disbenefits did you experience?
Yeah, fasting like sounds very. It's almost like the F word in society, especially in the fitness community. What do you mean you're gonna skip breakfast? And what do you mean? What like even if this intermittent fasting and the 16 and 8 hour time frame of eating and fasting is quite popular at the moment, there's still a lot of misconceptions and some fear around fasting for longer than 24 hours and so what the reason. Well, the basic thing is that to gain the life extension and the longevity benefits of fasting, then you would have to be fasting for at least 3 days, and that's usually the amount of time your immune system resets itself, and it starts to boost the stem cell growth as well from your body, and also like to kickstart this process called autophagy. That's going to require 3 days at least, and yeah. Before that, you're going to simply burning a ton of fat. You're in ketosis, but after that, that's only where the real magic starts to happen for long-term fasting. And the reason I did a 5-day fast was that it simply fit into my schedule. I was traveling to back and forth between Finland and yeah, it was simply more convenient for me to do it. I think like it's a good idea to fast, to have these kinds of extended fasts for at least 3 to 5 days, about 1 to 3 times per year, just to reset your immune system, just to kill off the other malignant tumor cells and cancerous cells as well. So it's a great longevity hack, and it fit my schedule. So I was already keto adapted. I've been doing keto for a few years, and I didn't experience any hunger. I didn't experience any fatigue, any lethargy, any hypoglycemia, or anything like that, because I was using my body fat for fuel. And while you're fasting, then you're going to switch into ketosis quite rapidly as well. And it usually takes, let's say, maybe 1 to 3 days to come off from a high carbohydrate diet to do intermittent fasting strictly for 3 days, and you're like almost in ketosis almost. And during that time, I didn't sit on a couch. I didn't waste away my muscles. I was very active. I moved around about 8 to 10 kilometers almost every day, and on some days I was walking like 14 kilometers. So it comes to show that your body is still able to produce a ton of energy just because you're carrying around your own body fat all the time. And with modern contemporary eating habits like snacking, eating breakfast all the time, and having 3 to 6 small meals a day with highly processed carbohydrates, highly processed trans fats, then that's going to inhibit your body's own inner ability to produce energy from its own body fat. People carry around a ton of fat, but they still get the cravings. They still get hungry. They still feel tired. They get brain fog, which doesn't make sense. From an evolutionary perspective. Fat is food. But so the issue isn't the ability to get access to food. The issue is the ability to utilize that food effectively. And stuff like keto and these longer fasts, they're going to improve your body's ability to burn its own body fat and to kind of tap into its energy stores. I didn't notice any negative side effects during the fast, other than that maybe you're simply going to of course you can't take it to the extreme and expect to be as energized as if you were eating a food, but there's simply a slightly it's like a down regulation of spontaneous activity. You're not gonna fidget around. You're not gonna just start dancing just because you feel like it. You're gonna maintain this very stable and calm feeling and sense of and activity levels. Like it's almost as blissful in a sense. After 4 days, you're simply like, oh, I just don't care about anything else. You're free from all attachments. You're free from cravings. You're free from hunger. and yeah, like whatever may come, I would be satisfied with whatever happens right now. I'm just, at this point of near transcendence, if you could say like something crazy like that. But yeah, it's like very blissful and relaxing state.
Yeah, well, the story goes that like in 2016, I flew over to Thailand and I stayed at a Buddhist monastery for 10 days. And I learnt there, I started reading in my spare time, I started reading some books on Buddhism. And apparently Gautama Buddha, no, I don't know how true it is, but, apparently he fasted for, I don't know if it was like 67 days. I don't know where I'm getting that number from, but something ridiculous. And, he said he experienced transcendence, and he used similar words to what you use. So maybe you're onto something, Sim. Maybe you're evolving into
maybe,
a Buddhist
yeah, like
god.
there are different. Yeah, it's like fasting's been used as in history for many purposes, like in Greece, in like Socrates, or let's say Plato, and the other philosophers. They also fasted for long periods of time. Like Plato fasted for 40 days, and he said like that it sharpened his senses and improved his cognition. And in different religious practices, Jesus fasted for 40 days, they say. And yeah, there are like so many benefits, both physical and psychological.
It seems so counterintuitive. So do you reckon, like, in the hunter-gatherer world, surely we would have went through periods of fasting where we couldn't hunt the animals, our weapons broke, or there would have been times, right, when we're just starving, like, damn, we don't have any food.
I think that it's also like, I think when you mentioned that biohack has to be something deviant from normal, then I think like fasting for, let's say, 10 days or something like that is also like this deviation from the norm. Because if you're a hunter-gatherer in the wild, you're still gonna find something that is something to eat, some roots, some bark, some berries, some corpses, some insects, whatever. There's plenty of food in nature. But and like for you to stay in a fasted state, in a physiologically fasting state, then you would have to maintain within a certain caloric limit. Like if you did eat like a few berries accidentally while you haven't eaten anything for 3 days, then you're gonna eat those berries and you're gonna get kicked out of a fasted state. So like and then there's danger that just because you're still eating, but you're eating so few calories, you're actually going to trigger a starvation response in your body, because you're gonna consume those berries, but you're not going to follow them up with adequate nutrition afterwards. So you're going to stay in this peripheral state where you're going to starve accidentally just because you broke a fasted state. Like it's almost like very binary. If you're in a fasted state, then you're in very deep ketosis. You have triggered autophagy. You have other, hormonal metabolic adaptations as well that occur, and it's almost like a protective shield. That once if you cross it, then you're gonna accidentally trigger like a starvation state. So the key is to actually do strict fasting with, very, very limited caloric intake, with practically like 0 calories, with some exceptions, like stuff like coffee or teas or salted water or mineral water or things like that.
Okay. So how the hell then do these exogenous ketones work, where you're not actually in full ketosis, but you can, Dave Asprey said in his book, like you can take exogenous ketones but not be in keto but still experience the benefits? Like, how does that work?
Well, yeah, like there's a lot of, I think that's still a lot of research to be done in this area. Like we know that if you suppress blood glucose, blood sugar levels, and you elevate ketones, then you're basically in ketosis, and you're going to you're promoting the burning of body fat. But at the same time, you can't expect to lose there's a difference between endogenous ketones and exogenous ketones. These endogenous ketones come from your own internal sources, like converting your own body fat into energy, and that happens in states of caloric restriction, states of starvation, states of fasting, and so on. But using exogenous ketones that come from external sources, from your diet, from these bulletproof coffees, MCT oils, brain octane, exogenous ketones, beta hydroxybutyrate salts, those things, there's a difference, because they do gonna elevate your blood ketones, but they're not gonna, they're not gonna put you into ketosis per se. You're gonna experience this transient effect of these ketones with mental clarity, sharper focus, and yeah, less hunger. But there's still a difference in a metabolic level. There's a difference.
Righto. Let's quickly touch on butter. So I tried out the whole vegan thing for health reasons, just to see how it would go. I'm an experimental guy, and I reckon I did 3 months vegetarian and then 2 months vegan, like afterwards. And you know, so I did all my research for a long time and got to see both sides of the equation. You know, is it really sustainable to be healthy on a vegan diet, etc., etc. Anyway, that's a massive conversation. But my point is, I eat meat now, but I'm still unsure about dairy, and so I know like butter, a lot of biohackers favor it as being a healthy fat source and all this thing, and like the marketers have marketed butter a lot, and what the whole fat myth, like fat's bad for you. I'm like, no, it's not. Like we know that now. Like you need your fats, your healthy fats. But I'm wondering, healthy fats from butter, like I don't even really know what butter is. I think it comes from a cow. And so every time I go to have the butter, I'm like, it's good for my brain health, but is it really? I don't really know where this comes from. And I just still feel a little bit unsettled. So is there anything you can say to, I don't know, help me feel a bit better about eating butter?
Well, yeah, like butter is dairy, but it's like full fat dairy. When people say that dairy is bad for you, then they're kind of referring to the other nutritional profile, the nutritional qualities of butter. Like butter has a lot of it has like these milk proteins like casein, and that's the reason why people get allergies and these other issues with consuming dairy. And also like the dairy can also raise this hormone called IGF-1. IGF-1 it's like this anabolic hormone that helps to grow. You know, children, they're gonna breast milk is full of IGF-1, I believe, like, and these other beneficial growth hormones. But as an adult, you don't want to overstimulate your IGF-1 production by consuming a lot of dairy, I believe. Like, of course, there's some exceptions, like raw kefir, some raw cottage cheese, some very good old aged cheese as well. Like those things are very good with the probiotics and such. But yeah, you don't want to be consuming copious amounts of dairy by default. I believe it's not just optimal for aging and longevity. But when it comes to butter, then butter is pure fat. It's the proteins have been removed, processed from out of it, and it's simply like a very healthy source of fat. Of course, it depends on from it. There's maybe like a slight difference between grass-fed cows and regular grain-fed cows or something like that, but it's subtle. It's a subtle difference. But yeah, basically butter, it has a ton of vitamin K. It also has butyric acid, which feeds the good microbiome in your gut as well. So it's actually better for your gut than some other source of grains or something like that that has fiber. Butter doesn't have fiber, but some grains have fiber. But the difference is that the butyric acid from butter is actually more beneficial for the gut bacteria because of the short chain fatty acids and such.
Does the butter still have the casein in it?
No, it doesn't. You know, it's clarified. Like regular butter, it may have maybe like, I would imagine, like milligrams or 0.00 milligrams of something protein or something like that. But if you use like ghee is clarified butter, which is, you know, completely processed in this regard, that it's pure fat. So ghee can be like a very more safer bet. But butter is still, I believe, a very healthy.
Okay, cool. All right, that clears things up. All right, so how about, let's talk about EMF. So I went on eBay and just bought this cheap little circle EMF sticker that you put on your phone, and the idea is that it cancels out like 99.9% of harmful electromagnetic radiation, heat radiation. Do you use these? Do you know anything about this? Or...
I don't use like these very specific EMF protections yet. I'm definitely having to, you know, as I learn more about it, then the more dangerous it becomes in my mind, in my perception, and it's all already like knowledge is power, and knowledge, as you learn more about this stuff, as more research comes out, then you're forced to actually kind of look at how dangerous those things can be. But what I'm doing is basically using some EMF protective underwear, maybe sometimes. Like you definitely don't want to be holding your laptop on your lap if you're male, especially, because it's going to lower testosterone and decrease sperm count as well. So like those very simple hacks you can use. You can use like these very fancy grounding mats. You can use, I don't know, some very tinfoil hats or something like that. But the simplest things you can do is to keep your smartphone on airplane mode whenever you can, most of the time. Like especially if you're wearing it on your side pocket, then you should always keep it on airplane mode and turn off the 4G internet access as well. Turn off the Wi-Fi, and it's not even a good idea to hold your phone next to your head as well, because it's gonna fry your brain. And most of the time I'm using like the speaker of the volume speaker, or I have like a headphone with the mic next to it. So those things are like very simple things you can do. And of course it's better to sleep in an EMF free environment with a Wi-Fi router turned off, and to do some grounding before you go to bed, of walking barefoot on some real like earth, on soil, and it's going to reset, or it's going to balance your body's electromagnetic field. Is going to lower your charge, and that's going to actually it's like a natural antioxidant, and it can help you to sleep. So those are like things you can do before bed.
Okay, how vital do you think turning off the Wi-Fi router is? Because for a lot of people that's impractical, because maybe they live with others who really need it throughout the night, or other reasons. So do you think it's a big concern, or?
Well, it depends on what other things are happening in the person's life, what kind of other lifestyle habits they have, and what does their sleep routine in general look like, because it's never just this one thing that's going to have this colossal effect on your overall health. It's always like the combination of all those things that we're exposed to, air pollution, EMFs, nutrition, water, circadian rhythms, light, those things. It's a holistic thing. The biohacking itself it has to be taken holistically. Okay. You can't just focus on, I'm gonna just take nootropics and we'll see what happens. Like it's a holistic thing. Like I wouldn't, in terms of the biggest effect on your physiology, it's probably quite high, the EMFs and wavelengths, but how seriously it's going to have a negative impact on your health, that depends on the person and their condition.
Now, just on sleep, while we're still here on sleep, I read the book The Story of the Human Body by Daniel Lieberman, which goes into the evolution of humans and what we're adapted to in modern civilization. And I was watching an interview, an old one, with him and Tai Lopez, and what really caught my attention was the common biohacking or sleep advice these days is to shut out all the lights so that it's completely dark, and you when you look at your hands you can't see them, so just complete blackout. Apparently that's the best way to sleep. However, in the interview with Tai Lopez and Lieberman, what I thought was interesting was Lieberman was saying, well, not necessarily, that might not be the ideal environment, because if we think about back on the African savannah, think about it, like, I don't know, number one, there's moonlight. I don't know if that's an issue, but I get moonlight coming in through my window, and I'm like, well, isn't that kind of natural? Surely our ancestors went in the darkness completely. And number two was, oh my god, I forgot number two. What was it?
Camp lights or fires.
Well, yeah, I mean, fires, and also the sounds of the animals in the African savannah, like a lion roaring at night. That might just be a very normal thing for let's say 4 a.m. a lion roars. Surely we've evolved to just go, oh, okay, That's a line. It's not a threat. It's not close to us, but we can still hear it. So that's a normal thing. Whereas, you know, the common advice as well here in 2018 is, you know, you don't want background noise unless it's like a white noise machine. Maybe that's okay. But generally it's like sleep in silence. So it's like, what the hell? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I understand you. Like, and I think it has to fall back to this discrepancy of what is natural and what is biohacking. What may be natural for our ancestors may not be optimal for our physiology. In a sense, you know, that lion who's going to kick you, who's going to disrupt your sleep, who's going to kick you out of REM sleep, that lion it's a natural occurrence that may happen from time to time, but it's still not good for you, you know. Like we shouldn't strive for living as hunter gatherers. We shouldn't strive for living as cavemen. We should strive for what is optimal for the human physiology. And I think like it's still a better idea to sleep in pitch black darkness and to completely to maximize or to improve the efficiency of your sleep quality, instead of trying to make some random natural, you know, stuff like, you know, moonlight or this campfire or this or like sounds, you know. Like, I think it's better to first optimize your physiology instead of trying to aim for this romanticized idea of what the paleo movement is all about. You know, we should, you know, want to return back to the caveman era and live like our ancestors. Like, you should do what is better for you right now in a modern environment, because the environment is completely different. People experience more stress, and they need to optimize their sleep better. Like a hunter gatherer, if a hunter gatherer, he's going to experience a poor night's sleep, then it's not going to have that big of an impact on their health and overall well-being, because they don't have the other responsibilities a modern person has. Like a person who is going to have a bad night's sleep in the 21st century, there may be a pilot who is going to go to job, who's going to go to work tomorrow, and he's going to fall asleep while flying or something like that. You know, you don't want to have that. You want to optimize your environment and your routines to fit your current condition in the modern world.
Great answer. All right, next up, Siim. Where are we? We've asked the butter question. Okay, so just briefly on sun exposure. What are your thoughts on sun exposure, and what do you do personally to get that?
I think sun exposure is highly underrated, and it's also, like we mentioned, like circadian rhythms and sleep cycles. Then the sunlight exposure is one of the best, or is one of the most important things that going to influence those circadian signaling, and all of your biological rhythms are, you know, connected to the light you get from your environment. And to actually fit into that circadian pattern, the correct circadian pattern, then you would have to be following along the lines of, you know, how the sun actually moves around, of first exposing yourself to natural sunlight first thing in the morning, and in the evening blocking out some of the artificial lights. And sunlight itself has other, you know, health benefits as well. It stimulates vitamin D synthesis, and most people are so deficient of this, and a lot of, you know, health issues come from that, cholesterol and insomnia, depression, like these other psychological issues and mental disorders. They're all connected to the sunlight and to lack thereof, you know. And like insomnia, depression, those kinds of things, they're very correlated with that. So sunlight is highly important, I believe.
So how about have you read the book Why We Sleep, that new one that's come out on sleep research?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so it's I think it was published last year. It's very recent, probably one of the most, you know, one of the biggest books now on sleep, like the most modern research and whatever. But in it, the author, who's a sleep researcher, has been at this for like decades. He claimed somewhere, I'm kind of butchering it here, but he claimed that there's sort of three biological clocks, and we're all synced slightly differently. So you've got night hours, you've got the day people, and then there's some other one. So I'm just wondering how, if you know much about this with biological clocks and how they vary amongst different people, how do we determine what biological clock is the right one for us?
Yeah, like there are different chronotypes, people like night owls, larks, and wolves, and so on. Like there are different ways you can name them, but the idea is, yeah, like some people simply are better off by waking up earlier and going bed earlier as well. Then there are some people who are better off by staying up later, slightly later, and then there's people who fall in the middle. You know, like there's no set where you can actually define it where your specific optimal hours are, but you can, you know, like there are definitely probably some tests you can take or some lab analysis, but it would require you to actually use some sort of sleep tracking, use the Aura Ring or some other sleep device to see how does your sleeping patterns affect your other health biomarkers. You know, it would have to be quite a thorough experiment where you actually look at, you know, how does my blood pressure fluctuate throughout the day, how does my alertness change, as you know, like and you know, paying attention to how does your, you know, other stuff like blood sugar levels, your triglycerides, your cholesterol, how do all those things get affected by the way you sleep. You know, it has to be quite a long study, but in general you can simply pay attention to, you know, yeah, people can definitely identify with, oh, I'm better at morning, I'm more of a morning person, or I like to stay up late. So and the deviation isn't something like, okay, I'm a night owl, so that means I can stay up until 3 a.m. and play video games or something like that. Yeah. The difference is probably like 1 hour or something like that. It's not a huge difference. Like the humans still have like these circadian clocks, and there's not a huge difference in the chronotypes, I believe.
Okay, yeah, I was just thinking the issue is if you got someone with a normal day chronotype, they might think they're a night owl simply because they love video games, they're hooked on it because this game has been designed to hook them, and then you've got the blue LEDs coming out the screen, which is keeping them up further, and then they get into that pattern, which may not even be their normal cycle. So what I'm thinking is, couldn't we just go out and camp in the woods for 7 to 14 days, let our body do its thing, and then that would kind of be like not necessarily the optimal clock, but our body would sync in such a way that it would have without all these distractions, you know? Maybe that's your optimal clock, but I don't know.
That's a good experiment, you know, because indeed, like if you were to be put into the wild, then you would simply, over the course of that time, you would naturally gravitate towards a more in sync circadian rhythm that fits your biology. So that's definitely that's a good biohack, I believe.
I think it's a very worthy experiment for everyone. Anyway, I haven't done it myself, but it's on the list. All right, next, Siim. We'll go to let's see here. Yeah, what do you, just again on sleep? It's a very fascinating subject. What do you eat and supplement before bed, personally?
Well, the key, I think, for sleep is to not to kind of spike your blood sugar and not to spike your insulin, just so you would get hungry during the night. Like if you experience a crash in blood sugar, then you're gonna get hungry. You're gonna wake up in the middle of the night, and that's going to disrupt your sleep quality. What I do is I simply eat some, you know, ketogenic meal that is going to satiate my brain, is going to keep me nourished, and which is also going to, it should also have like some sort of a source of tryptophan. Tryptophan is this amino acid that promotes melatonin production, and it can be found in stuff like turkey, pumpkin seeds, and cruciferous vegetables, or something like that. I usually eat like very simple keto food like eggs, maybe some meat, fish, vegetables, avocados, things like that. And I don't really, well, there are some, like, you know, herbs that can also relax you, that can make you more calmer. like ashwagandha is a very good adaptogenic herb. Then there's like stuff like ginseng or these different reishi mushrooms that have like very soothing effects on your body. And of course, there are some very good supplements like melatonin, straight up melatonin, that's going to promote your own body's melatonin production, or it's actually, or at least it's going to help you to fall asleep. But those things, they're not, you know, they're not long-term strategies. You can use them at times when you maybe had a bad night's sleep before, or when you're traveling, you have jet lag or something like that.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna take like a huge dose of melatonin, like a few grams, 2 to 3 grams, and that's gonna knock you out quite good. And it's going to, you know, compensate for the sleep deprivation you experienced before. But yeah, you should still focus. It comes down to first focusing on the fundamentals, and not accidentally messing up your habits.
Okay, so for you, like, what's the period of time that goes between eating your last thing of the night and going to sleep? How many hours is there?
Well, it depends on like it's in general, it would be better to while I was doing this 5-day fast, then I slept quite good because I didn't consume anything. I
Okay.
didn't put any digestive strain on myself. But as I'm eating right now, I still like to eat something before bed,
Okay.
like a few hours. I finish my meals like a few hours before bed, and that's going to simply, yeah, keep me satiated as well. And in between that time, I'm not going to be drinking any liquids either, because you're gonna have to wake up. You're gonna have to go to the bathroom, and that's going to disrupt your sleep. So like before bed, it's like a good idea to slightly dehydrate yourself and go to bed with an empty bladder.
Okay, thank you. Very useful. Now let's touch on cold showers. So a specific question here. I think I've been doing cold showers for probably almost 2 years now. I don't shower every single day, but when I do shower, it's always a cold one. However, despite the benefits we've all heard of, I don't know where I read it, but I heard about it somewhere, and it can actually end up having a cold shower all the time can spike cortisol, and maybe too much of that isn't necessarily good for you. So I know there's this alternative where you do the cold warm cycling. So do you have any thoughts on whether people who take cold showers should switch to the cold warm cycling or not?
Mm. Yeah, like I also used to take straight up cold showers for 2 years, like every morning, and I didn't practically skip any morning. And of course, the cold shower is going to increase your alertness. It's going to put you in the right state of mind, wake you up. But it's true that it can trigger a cortisol. It can overstimulate cortisol, and it can turn into a stress response. But I think like that can only happen if the person himself is unable to control their flight or fight response. You know, like if a person who hasn't done cold showers ever, like this a very comfortable person who, you know, who isn't even experiencing other alterations in temperature during the day, then they're simply not able to physiologically nor psychologically able to handle it. So if a person who is already practicing these kinds of things, of trying to control their flight or fight response, with whether that be like with the Wim Hof method or taking cold showers every day, then you can, you know, shut off that stress response. In a sense, you're not going to actually go into too far into that sympathetic response. Like if you stay mindful, if you stay controlled, you focus on your breathing, you're actively trying to calm yourself down, then you're going to instantaneously shift back into a parasympathetic state faster. And yeah, like if a person is experiencing a lot of stress in their life, then their emotional resiliency and the ability to stay mindful is also going to decrease, because they're experiencing so much stress. So like, yeah, if a person has trained themselves, they know how to do it, then they can shut off that stress response. But when it comes to these alteration showers, then I think like I myself have shifted over to these contrast showers, because they're, first of all, they're more convenient, they are less stressful on the body, both physically and psychologically, and also like I think there's actually a better metabolic health or a better metabolic effect because of the alterations. The heat is also, first of all, is going to stimulate the lymph flow, and the cold is also going to have like the other hormesis benefits, and it's going to trigger some brown fat activation. So the contrast showers are simply better. Like they're more effective and they're more comfortable as well.
Okay, well, good to know. Good to know. Good to know. Next up here, Siim. What we got? All right, yeah. What do you think of these? I would show you, but it's all the way out there. They're these. Tim Ferriss recommends them on his podcast. The green powders that give you a bunch of nutrients on the go, and they've got like 86 in one. They've got androgens and all these things, antioxidants, and they've got probiotics, prebiotics, the whole lot. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know.
I'm wondering, are these things a good solution for lazy people or people on the go, or do they just not compare to the real thing, real whole foods?
I think when you compare like a supplement versus a real food, then the real food is always going to be better because of the micronutrient ratios are more balanced. But the problem is that in us as modern people, we don't eat that diverse diets anymore. Who is going to eat organ meats almost every day, and who is going to eat these different vegetables, different pigments, berries, starches, these different herbs, rosemary, thyme. And people focus on the macronutrients, but they neglect the micronutrients. Like I mentioned, these are rosemary, thyme, dill, spring onions. Those things are very neglected from our diet. And in a modern world, I think it's a good idea to supplement these kinds of things, or to add this, or to simply add them to your diet, but to not take them as like we mentioned earlier, not to focus on them, but to focus on the real food, but at the same time using them as an additional biohack in a sense. And the micronutrient profiles, they're definitely like very beneficial, and depends on the supplement, of course. But in terms of you getting your daily micronutrients, your vitamins and minerals every day, then it's a good idea. And especially if you're traveling and you're not consuming a wide variety of foods. Yeah, the problem simply is that people aren't consuming a variety of foods. They tend to stick to the same, chicken breast and rice and broccoli, or like there are so many other foods, and there's so much diversity, especially like for the gut microbiome as well. People tend to may miss out on some of the micronutrients they need.
Just a legal disclaimer, just in case. I don't normally do these, but this is not health advice to everyone looking in. This is for your information purposes only. So just on the pro and prebiotics, we hear a lot in the media, just everywhere, that gut health and pre and probiotics are important. So just to dig a little bit deeper, in these green powders with the pre and probiotics included in there, they're like, oh, we got 30 billion probiotics in here. How do they compare to eating like sauerkraut, for example, or these weird salty things that you eat, Siim, in terms of the quality of the pro and prebiotics?
Well, the problem is that even though the label might say that it's a prebiotic or a probiotic and it has 30 billion bacteria in it, the problem is that during the processing, those microbiomes or the bacteria, they can be wiped out, they can be killed off. Those things are quite sensitive. They're living organisms, and they can die. And especially with traveling, shipping across seas, staying on shelves for long periods of time, heat exposure, light exposure, those things can alter the nutritional value of those things. So of course, a batch of sauerkraut with some live real bacteria that has fermented over the course of a few weeks and is quite fresh, that's incomparable to a probiotic supplement. And like there's a huge difference, I believe. Of course, like there's not the probiotic tablet or the probiotic pill is more dense in the sense that there's more bacteria in it. But how well are you going to actually use it? How many of those bacteria are actually going to have a beneficial effect on your body? That may be like negligible in comparison to the sauerkraut that is full of actual live stuff. Like that stuff can actually move move around on your table almost.
Yeah. Is there any foods that are actually pleasing to eat though, or like I personally don't find sauerkraut all that appeasing or appetizing? But do you know of any foods with pre or probiotics that are like, I don't know, easy to eat or somewhat pleasurable?
Well, I think like these fermented foods and fermented vegetables are very good.
Okay.
In terms of taste as well. But other stuff, other foods that may be more pleasurable are like pickles, and then there's like raw kefir, raw milk, cheese, like blue cheese that is dried out or old aged. That those things can also be very tastier. Then there's also like if you cure your own beef or something like that, or if you do your own kombucha, those things that can be like good alternatives. Like kombucha is like this fermented black tea type of drink that has also like this bacteria in it, and it's quite good. It's actually carbonated if you let it if you ferment it for the second time.
So fermented vegetables, is that something you do yourself here at home, or do you buy it on the shelf?
Yeah, we do it ourselves. Like we have our own garden, and over the course of the summer, we grow our stuff like cucumbers, tomatoes, zucchini, pumpkins, carrots, onions, those types of things, and then you cook them up all together. You kind of steam them, then you add some vinegar, then you put some sugar in it, some other herbs, some spices, and then you ferment them over the course of the winter. And during the winter months, you can get your own stuff. So it's it's delicious, and it's very healthy in a sense.
Wow. Okay. I've only ever heard of fermenting grapes because I used to work at some wineries around here because I'm from a wine region. But there you go. I didn't really know much about fermenting vegetables. Okay. How about turmeric? Is that all it's cracked up to be?
Sorry?
Turmeric. Curcumin or whatever.
Turmeric.
powder.
Yeah.
Yeah, turmeric. That's
Yeah. Yeah. Turmeric. It's a good, very popular spice, and it has been shown to be very beneficial for reducing inflammation, promoting joint health, and balancing blood sugar levels. It actually can boost neurogenesis, the creation of new brain cells as well. So definitely something. I think like I'm consuming turmeric almost every day, and it's a very simple and convenient thing you can add, and there are many medicinal benefits. It can actually fight. It's a huge antioxidant, and it can fight like cancer cells as well. So
okay.
but there's a problem, like you to actually absorb turmeric, then it's a fat soluble compound, and you need to be consuming it together with some fats to absorb it actually, because it's fat soluble. So it's a good idea to combine it with something like oils, some butter, or eating with your other foods like eggs or meats, just so you could and also like to boost the bioavailability of turmeric, then you can combine it with black pepper, and black pepper has this piperine substance that's going to help you to absorb turmeric.
Can you take a turmeric, I don't know how to say it, turmeric capsule with a fish oil capsule and get the oil absorption?
Probably, like, yeah. You would still if you take supplements, then you would always absorb them better if you take them with food. But yeah, like I would suggest that it can to a certain degree be absorbed better if you take like fish oil and turmeric.
Okay, how are we going for time, Sim? Because I got the calendar booking for 90 minutes, and I think I said 60 minutes. So what's your time situation looking like?
No, it's fine. Like, I have some time.
Yes, thank you, Sim.
Let's
love
do
you.
it. Like,
All
rolling.
Yes, good. Because I've got some more questions. We're coming near to the end, but I'm sure I'll have some pop up. Yeah, so let's talk about fish oil versus krill oil versus algae based. What I find really interesting is with Dave Asprey, you know, the bulletproof guy that some people might know. I think in Headstrong or the Bulletproof Diet book, he suggests krill oil being a much better source than fish oil, but I am wondering why he's failed to mention algae based, because my understanding is that, you know, algae is the most raw form, and then it goes to the krill, then it goes to the fish. So why would you not go algae? Maybe Dave has updated his views on that, or maybe he hasn't. I don't know. What's your view?
Yeah, like it's true. I would say that fish, or let's say krill oil, is much better than fish oil. But I'm not sure. Like, I haven't you know researched that much about all algae oil. But I would say maybe like the problem might be that algae, it's more susceptible to contamination as well. Like it's seaweed basically, and yeah, like it's more prone to metal toxicity or something like that. Well, it depends on also like where you're getting it from, and maybe krill oil is it's in open seas, and it's not that it's less contaminated with these different metals and such. But I haven't researched into that much in comparison. Of course, like algae is very good, but it may be also like that the krill oil may have more DHA or something like that. The stuff that the plant-based fatty acids don't have. So I'm not sure that.
Well, that wouldn't be an issue, right? Because if you, let's say, it's just a matter of eating more or consuming more algae oil, right? So if your krill oil's got 100 DHA, then just eat more algae oil to get 100 DHA. But then maybe the ratio of EPA or whatever the other one is to DHA, maybe the ratio is different. I don't know, but it's something worth researching, I think.
Yeah, like you can convert these plant-based fatty acids into DHA by your own body's inner mechanisms. But I believe like there's still a slight it's basically not as efficient as if you were to simply take up straight krill oil or something. But yeah, I'm not that big of an expert on this fish oil.
Sure thing. All right, what else we got here? Let's have a look. Okay, how about the red light therapy? What's this all about?
Well, yeah, red light therapy is quite a new thing at the moment. It's been used for some therapeutic methods for like a few decades, but it hasn't been adopted into mainstream medicine. Maybe because of big pharma or something like that. But basically, like red light therapy it penetrates the skin tissue much better than other wavelengths. Like there are like different wavelengths, and the red light, the beneficial wavelength starts from about 630 nanometers and goes all the way up to 900 or 800. And it's been found to be very rejuvenating and beneficial for your skin. It's going to penetrate this tissue. It's going to stimulate collagen synthesis, and it can also help your mitochondria to produce more energy. And that's going to have like an all-encompassing effect on everything you do, starting with your health, your metabolism, your energy levels, and ending with reducing inflammation, promoting tissue repair. There have been like stuff people have used it to heal scar tissue, to reduce joint pain, men can actually experience a boost in testosterone, and it's quite a unique. It has a very positive effect on your entire body. And funny enough, like if you expose your testicles to red light, then studies have shown that in mice it can triple testosterone count, or raise or even increase sperm count as well. So it's a huge like anabolic agent almost like.
Right. Have you been monitoring your own testosterone levels?
No, I haven't. Like
Okay.
I've I haven't had a reason to, you know, because the first signs of decreased testosterone in men would be like if you're not able to have a hard on in the morning. So I haven't had any issues in that regard, so I haven't been, you know, worried about it. But yeah, like lower testosterone levels are very popular, and that happens because of, you know, poor circadian rhythms, poor nutrition, too many processed carbs, sugar, trans fats, too much stress, exercising too much. Those things can all, you know, lower testosterone.
Like last year, I went through a real down period where I entered this existential crisis, and I really believed everything was meaningless, and I still do, but now I feel empowered by being able to create my own meaning. But when I was in that state last year, man, I was not in good shape, and I ended up just doing stupid things like overdosing on like this kratom. Not an actual overdose, but I was being stupid with kratom, right? I'd heard about this as a biohacking thing, but I was actually using it as an outlet to soothe my down feelings, and it wasn't healthy at all. And I was eating like 7 chocolate bars a day. It was terrible. Like I won't even go there. But you know, I was just very, very down. And I actually, when I got back in Australia, because I was in Hawaii last year for 2 months, I don't know what I was doing there. I was just a lost guy. Spiritually, I was just lost, and I was down. When I got back into Australia last year, I went to my doctor. It was for something else. But just before I left, I just thought I might pick his brains, and I talked. What did I say? Something about my existential crisis, and I talked about testosterone. That's what I did. I asked him if maybe I had the suspicion maybe my hormones are just fucked, and this is why I feel down. And so I thought, why don't I get my testosterone levels tested? So I asked him, and straight up he said, you know, I don't think you need to, Brandon. I can see the beard, and that is a strong indicator that your testosterone levels are very alive and well. And so he didn't actually want to do the test, and he said, like, you know, because here in Australia, like, the government helps fund your testosterone test, which is an expensive test, but it comes from taxpayers' money. So it was like, yeah, no, I don't think so. We would only test you if you really needed it. But anyway, fair enough. I tried, but I guess the reason I asked if you monitored your own T levels was I feel like if there's men out there who haven't even thought about their T levels, maybe that could be responsible for them feeling, you know, not up to shape psychologically and emotionally. So I think it's an important thing to consider. So I was going to ask you, what do you think are like, or what are the things you've done to increase your testosterone levels? But clearly it seems you have no need for it, like me. I think we're quite healthy.
Definitely, like, yeah, testosterone, it's villainized as the masculine hormone and that to a certain extent, of course, can become toxic, you know, if the person simply has a like over toxic if they're prone to, you know, toxic masculinity or something like that. But testosterone itself is like it's a hormone that can actually spring you into action. It boosts your confidence. You want to take action. It's a sex drive. Healthy sex drive is, you know, healthy not just for the individual, but for, you know, for their success, personal success as well, to have the motivation to go out there and conquer the world, in a sense.
Oath. Speaking of masculinity and things along those lines, I've actually never been to the gym on my own terms, which is crazy, right? Because, you know, I'm in the self-development scene. I've been in it for 4 years, and it seems like every male, especially my age, 22, it's like everyone's in the damn gym, and I'm seeing all these Instagrams like, oh yeah, just working out today. And, you know, I'm sitting here and I just don't do that. But I do exercise, just not like bodybuilding in the gym and doing weights. So touching on that, this is a very shallow question, but I'm going to ask it anyway, because every guy is curious, and that is, Siim, how do I get big muscles as fast as possible?
Yeah, like, well, if we're talking about biohacking, then yeah, like in the future, maybe we can take some supplements or something like that would instantly build you up. But currently we still have to go through the reps, in a sense that the biggest basically you have to send your body the signal that that it needs to build muscle. There needs to be a necessity for it in some shape or form. And as a natural lifter, then the biggest signal for that is simply to get stronger and to lift heavier weights, to put this muscle stimulus on your body that indicates muscle growth. And usually, there are different methods for doing that. There's not much difference in terms of doing barbell lifts or doing body weight exercises. The stimulus is the same. It simply has to be the resistance that indicates that your body needs to build more muscle tissue and build more muscle fibers. So the key is to get stronger in some shape or form, to start doing more pull-ups, to maybe bench press more weight, to squat more, or to jump higher or something like that. There are different methods, and usually for building muscle, then the best rep range or something like that is generally between 5 to 12 reps or something like that, and to follow it up with 3 to 5 sets. So that's a very good medium point for in terms of the rep ranges, and you can play around with that as well. Sometimes more hypertrophic for a more hypertrophic effect, then you would maybe want to increase your rep ranges as well, and to kind of pump out the muscles. But in addition to training, you would also have to follow it up with some adequate nutrition, and to actually build new tissue, then you need to trigger protein synthesis as well. And for protein synthesis, you need protein basically from foods. You need to be consuming slightly more protein, because if you want to build muscle tissue, then you need more building blocks and some more amino acids that support that. And generally, the best foods for triggering protein synthesis are actually, they're not necessarily like carbohydrates or something like that, but the best foods for protein synthesis are like eggs and whey proteins and things like that, because the leucine, the amino acid leucine that is inside them is actually the main driver of protein synthesis. And you can actually trigger protein synthesis without carbohydrates at all by consuming some eggs or whey protein or something like that, just because of their leucine content. So the key is to lift hard, get enough protein, and maybe eat like a surplus of calories as well to have that extra energy, and to also sleep better, to actually to allow the other hormonal processes to take care of it. And sleep is actually vital. It's a crucial aspect, like we talked about here already. But in terms of building muscle, sleep is also vital, because that's the time where your body is actually gonna elevate growth hormone, and that's the time when your body is actually gonna heal itself. During the daytime, you're simply tearing down your muscles, and at night, then you're going to allow the repair mechanisms to actually kick in.
Okay, touching on the thing, what was really intriguing was you talked about you don't actually need carbs or something, but you can get leucine or something. So my understanding is, I'm new to bodybuilding, but it's like 90 minutes before you work out, you load up on carbs, assuming you're not keto adapted or whatever. Load up on the carbs, obviously, so you have more energy or whatever for the gym. But what you're saying is, you don't, let's say you're keto adapted, and you're pretty built for being on a keto diet, which is interesting. So you don't load up on the carbs, you just eat eggs for this thing called leucine, whatever the hell that is, and that does the same thing, like gives you more energy at the gym? How does that work?
It's not going to give you more energy. Like there are different fuel sources your body can use, and if you are keto adapted, then you're not using carbohydrates as your primary fuel source anyway. You do have to use glycogen to execute these harder lifts and explosive movements. You need glycogen for these high intensity exercises, but you're using that glycogen only during that exercise. When you're walking around during your day, then you're not burning glycogen at all. Like the daily commute, the walking down the stairs, going for walks, those things, they're not burning glycogen. Your muscle glycogen stays full during the daytime, and Therefore, you don't actually need to be you don't need to be filling up on carbohydrates before exercise as well, because on keto you're preserving your glycogen stores for that exercise. And yeah, like, and even if you do deplete your glycogen stores while exercising, then those glycogen stores, they're gonna be refilled even on keto if you don't consume carbohydrates, with your body's own ability to convert fat, your own body fat, into glucose. So yeah, you like, if you, of course you can if you're eating a carbohydrate diet, you can experience a boost in your energy levels if you consume some carbs before a workout, but it's like transient. As soon as that glucose runs out, then you can experience an energy crisis. Then you need to be adding more carbohydrates, or stop exercising. But with keto, then you can also run out of glycogen stores, but the difference is that you will switch over to a fat burning engine then.
Okay, right. I just thought there was something special about building muscle and bodybuilding, and you needed carbs, but it turns out you're just using the fats for the energy.
Like if you were to be doing like professional bodybuilding or this fitness competition, then I would say you would be better off by at least eating more carbohydrates than a standard ketogenic diet, because keto isn't like optimized for bodybuilding like Ronnie Coleman or Phil Heath. Like, but at the same time, like people like you and I, or people who would simply want to exercise for health and general health and fitness, who are not gonna be stepping on stage, then they don't need to be consuming those whey shakes. They don't need to be consuming that many carbohydrates, because it's not practical for them. It doesn't suit their goals, first of all, and second of all, they're not training as hard as those bodybuilders. They're not training 3 hours a day, and or even having CrossFit twice a day workouts. There's the general population doesn't need to be consuming the same diet as these fitness competitors, and that's the biggest one of the best benefits of keto, or the best application of keto for the general public, is that it suits their life conditions much better, and their metabolic conditions.
I completely agree. However, I'm still a curious guy, and there's something I'm still stuck on, and it's why could you not strive to be the Ronnie Coleman and achieve his results on a keto diet, assuming if you just want more energy, just eat more fats? So I mean, why can't you get to that threshold of Ronnie Coleman on a keto diet?
Well, maybe you can. There hasn't been someone who...
Maybe you can, Siim. Maybe it's you.
yeah, but yeah, like, first of all, there are different stuff Ronnie Coleman probably zipped into his protein shake. Different compounds. Different compounds that actually made him look bigger. But carbohydrates do have this effect that they're gonna fill up your muscle glycogen stores more. They're going to make it more bubbly, and fill it up with water. The reason is that if you're with carbohydrates, you're gonna elevate insulin, and you have slightly higher blood sugar levels as well, and that's going to make you retain onto water better, and your muscles are going to hold onto water as well more easily, and that's the reason why people look bigger if they're eating a high carbohydrate diet versus a low carb diet. If they switch over from high carb to low carb, then the initial few weeks they're gonna lose some water weight, because their body naturally holds onto less water because of sodium retention and so on. So like on a keto diet, you would have slightly less definition for your muscles, and you would look slightly flatter. You won't necessarily, it doesn't mean that you will lose your muscle or something like that. The difference is just that it's like a magical trick, or an illusion, in a sense of with carbs, you're simply puffier.
Yeah, right on. So how often are you cycling in and out of ketosis?
Depends on what I'm trying to do at the moment with my physical performance or something. My default is still like a very low carb keto diet, and I would only dip in and out of ketosis if I wanted to maybe like boost my metabolism or something, or to simply yeah, like to simply have or to recover faster from exercise, or to boost my performance, I would only use it as a performance enhancing agent,
Huh.
not as a means of as a standard procedure.
Wow.
And usually it would happen maybe like I used to do my first year of keto. I used to do 6 months of this cyclical keto diet, where you consume like strict keto the entire week, and then you have like a carb up day in the weekend, where you consume like massive amounts of carbohydrates, like it's like 5,000 calories of sugar and ice cream.
Yeah.
But those days kind of got boring, and then I switched over to like this targeted keto diet, which I believe like is much more effective for your health and your performance as well. And the idea is that you're going to consume like a very small dose of carbohydrates, like 5 to 10 grams of something like a ripe banana or some rice cakes or dextrose powder or something like that during your exercise, while you're actually working out. And during that exercise, you're going to put that glucose straight into, you're going to burn that glucose right away. And after the post-workout, then you're already back in ketosis, hypothetically. So that's what I've been doing on my harder training workout days. And I've seen like a great, I don't, first of all, you're going to experience a small boost in your performance, because you're coming off this low carb state, and you implement this small amount of carbohydrate, then you're more sensitive to the effects as well. And secondly, then you're going to avoid the keto flu as well, of, like if people come off the keto diet and they start eating carbs again, then they may experience this slightly tiredness, because they're swapping in between those fuel sources. So like with a targeted keto diet, you're avoiding the keto flu, because you're kind of using carbohydrates, but not all the time. You're maintaining your metabolic flexibility with the ability to burn both carbs and fat. Like I think it's very effective for people who want to, exercise slightly harder, but at the same time get the longevity benefits.
Okay, so I'm just trying to process what you said here. So I'm just gonna have to dig. Apologies if I repeat myself, but I'm gonna have to understand this. So, let's talk about. With the eating the 5 to 10 grams of carbs and exercising and then running it through your system, my understanding is that 20 grams or less, you by default are in ketosis, but you've said that you're not in ketosis, like you're just eating low carb and then dipping into ketosis when you want to, but anything less than 20, you're in ketosis, aren't you?
Well, it depends on like it's not that binary, in a sense of your body doesn't have a keto calculator of you consume 21 grams of carbohydrates and you're out of ketosis.
Okay.
Like there's a huge people's carbohydrate sensitivity and their ability to keto adapt. It's a huge difference. Someone with type 2 diabetes, of course, they can't even look at a piece of cake or eat some potatoes. They're immediately gonna elevate their blood sugar and they're gonna raise insulin. But someone, let's say, like Rich Froning, who is CrossFit Games champion, he's so insulin sensitive, and he has so much muscle mass that he's probably in ketosis by eating 120 grams of carbs a day, especially if he works out twice a day. Like he's constantly, his liver glycogen stores are very depleted in between exercises, and he's burning a ton of fat. And like there's a huge difference between people, and it depends on their amount of lean body mass, their insulin sensitivity, how much muscle mass they have, how hard they train, and so on. So people's keto tolerance quite differs.
Okay, so let's say the next 7 days, how many of those 7 days will you be in full-blown ketosis versus just being on a low-carb diet?
Like in the example of the cyclical keto diet?
Whatever you're doing right now, like just where we are now,
okay.
the next 7 days.
All right. Well, basically, at the moment, I think I'm not doing the cyclical keto diet. I'm doing
Mm.
a standard keto diet with occasional targeted ketogenic carbohydrates. Like for instance, I'm not gonna be working out today that hard. I'm gonna have like a regular calisthenics session.
Okay.
Then I won't be consuming like these targeted carbs. Like what I'll do is simply eat some regular keto diet. I'm not that particularly meticulous about my macronutrient ratios either. I'm not counting my the carbohydrates I'm getting from fibrous vegetables and these fermented foods. And like that the purpose isn't to aim for ketosis. The purpose isn't to get a certain amount of blood ketones or other, unless you're a type 2 diabetic. The purpose is to simply eat a low carb diet that suppresses insulin and keeps your blood sugar levels low as well, and to gain the other medicinal benefits of eating this way. So yeah, like people don't need to be ketosis isn't magical in a sense of like if you cross the threshold of 0.5 millimoles, then you're immediately gonna gain these superpowers in your brain. It's not that binary. Like the what you consume, the nutritional profile of the foods that you consume is much more important. And I would even suggest that you would be better off by accidentally consuming slightly too many carbohydrates. But if those carbohydrates are very nutritious and they're very micronutrient dense, then you would still be better off rather than aiming for staying in a strict keto diet. Like if you consume these very nutritious and slightly higher carb vegetables while getting the micronutrients and the vitamins and minerals, then your health and your overall well-being would improve rather than trying to stick to a very low carbohydrate intake.
Right. So let me just get clear in the terminology then. You said you're on a keto diet, but it's not technically keto, is it? Because you
Well, it is keto in a sense that I'm in ketosis the majority of the day. Like
hang on, I'm getting confused. I thought you only dip into that occasionally. I thought you're just still on a carb diet, but it's just very low carbs. I'm a bit lost.
no, like well, it is a ketogenic diet in a sense of it maintains like nutritional ketosis the majority of the time. And
Nutritional ketosis. Okay. So you're running on fats the majority of the time.
like even though like for you to, I'm consuming a high fat low carb ketogenic diet that puts me into nutritional ketosis
Okay.
the majority of the day and majority of the time. I may get kicked out of ketosis because of several reasons, maybe, or at least I'm gonna lower my amount of blood ketones in my blood.
Yes.
If I consume like maybe like 10 grams slightly more carbohydrates, it's going to lower my blood ketones, but that effect is going to be like a very short term. I'm going to get back into it faster than I were to, let's say, consume 100 grams of carbohydrates over my daily intake. It's like as soon as your liver glycogen stores get depleted, your liver starts producing more ketones. Okay. And if you consume only like if your liver glycogen has like 50 grams versus 120 grams, there's a time difference how fast you can enter into ketosis. Like if you eat one piece of broccoli more than your liver can handle versus eating an entire batch of apples, there's a difference between or the speed at which you reestablish ketosis. So yeah, you have to pay attention to how many carbohydrates you dip yourself out of ketosis as well.
Wow. Yeah. So you can tell when I went into keto 2 years ago, I didn't know much about it. I just read the Bulletproof Diet and I thought, bam, I'm trying it. Didn't research much, and I was literally
for sure, like people, if they're already eating like not a very real keto diet or not a very low carb diet, but they're like paleo or something where they consume maybe 150 grams or 200 grams of carbs, then they will show some signs of ketosis, at least some parts of the day or around exercise, because they're in a semi-glycogen depleted state. But yeah, they're simply doing keto less often, or they're not that deep into ketosis.
Right, and so hence you're saying that we shouldn't be looking at it as so binary like I have been. So let's say I'm in full-blown ketosis, running on fats for 3 days, and then let's just say I have just enough carbs, maybe I feel like my limit is like 20 grams based on my own experimentation, and my lifestyle is generally 20 grams for me. If I just go a little bit over, I notice that it kicks me out. I can feel like my whole body just changes. And I fucked up a few times. And so maybe I was in ketosis for way too long. I wasn't really educated back then. But my question is then, I thought once you have a little bit of carbs to get yourself out of that ketosis state, I thought it takes a whole nother 2 to 3 days to get back into ketosis again. So what you seem to be saying is, if I just have a little bit of carbs, it's not actually going to take me that long if I just begin fasting, stick to my fats. It's not going to take that long to get back into that ketosis again.
Yeah, like it depends it depends on your individual metabolism and how metabolically flexible you are. Like indeed, for someone who is a type 2 diabetic and they get kicked out of ketosis, then it may take them slightly longer because their metabolism isn't that used to. Or even if a person has been doing a strict, very low carb diet of maybe consuming less than 10 grams of carbs for entire year or something like that, then they definitely will notice a huge energy crisis after getting kicked out of ketosis. So the key is to not become fragile, in a sense of not becoming dependent of the ketogenic state, and to teach your body to handle these subtle nuances of maybe accidentally getting kicked out of ketosis, because it's going to develop metabolic flexibility. And it is true that the more frequently you dip in and out of it, the better your body can handle that, and the better your body can reestablish that ketogenic state as well. Because like we mentioned earlier, Rich Froning is probably, if he were to go through a few days of restricting his carbohydrate intake deliberately, then he would probably be in ketosis faster than someone who is not exercising, because the energy demands are different. He's burning off all of his glycogen, and he's very active in a sense. So it's still a matter of context of the individual and how metabolically flexible they are.
Okay, so yeah, there's a lot of variables to consider, is basically what you're saying. So I'm going to continue to be the annoying guy and see if I can get a concrete answer, even though it may not suit what we're talking about, but we'll try anyway. So if I got you to write it down in mathematical figures over the next 7 days, what percentage of the time would you be burning fats for energy, and what percentage of time would you be burning carbs for energy? Is it like 80-20, 50-50?
Like me individually, or me personally?
Yes, you personally.
Okay. Well, I would have to be quantifying, like where my blood ketones are all day, every day. But but in general, I would say like my daily carb intake falls somewhere between 30 to 60 grams of carbohydrates a day, depending on whether or not they exercise or not. Like that's no issue. Those carbs are going to be burnt off within the 24-hour period already, and I'm in this ketogenic state. And the other fuel sources that I'll be consuming will be like from fats and my own body fat, dietary fat and my own body fat. So I would say like 90% of the time I'm in ketosis of the week, and that 10% it may happen because of maybe, I don't know, having slightly more berries, or having a few pieces of more these fermented foods in my post-workout meal or something like that. That may lower my amount of blood ketones, but I'll be re-establishing it quite fast, and definitely I'll be in ketosis by the next morning already. So
so you probably
because I'm not consuming anti-ketogenic carbohydrates. I'm consuming these very low carb vegetables and berries and things like that. So those things are definitely they're gonna help to re-establish ketosis faster, definitely.
Right. So you probably, after you've been cycling in and out of ketosis for so long, you probably find it hard to tell the difference when you go over your limit or whatever,
Mhm.
and it
Yeah,
probably just
yeah,
feels normal to you.
yeah, definitely. Like, for instance, when I do have like I've noticed like in the past I have noticed like whenever I ate I tasted like potatoes in some sort of a soup or something in a salad or something.
Mm.
I noticed, okay, those are potatoes, and afterwards I noticed like my blood sugar levels intuitively I felt they changed, or I would say like, or maybe I got kicked out of ketosis or something. But now after several years I don't notice any difference. I can consume like gluten and pieces of bread combined with my keto meal, and I won't notice any difference, you know.
Mm.
And I'm not doing it, but yeah, like the in terms of my well-being or my mental sharpness, there's not difference.
Mm.
So, and that's the metabolic flexibility aspect of it that we should all aim for. We shouldn't aim for either high carb or low carb or paleo or vegan. We should aim for metabolic flexibility and to teach our body to use different fuel sources, and to leave ourselves open to the fact that we may come across these instances or these occasions where we have to consume these different kinds of foods, like accidental gluten or accidental carbs, and we wouldn't be distraught or we wouldn't be wiped out because of it, because of lack
Mm.
of metabolic flexibility.
Clever, clever. All right, I think we're coming to a close soon. This has been freaking awesome. So what will happen is what I'm going to do is let my viewers know where we can find you, and then once I've said goodbye to you, Sim, just stay on for the next 4 or 5 minutes for a quick debrief, and then you can go about your day. So yeah,
Sure.
just take this opportunity now, Sim, to let us know where we can find you online. Where do we go?
Well, definitely my biggest social media channel is my YouTube. You can find me as Siim Land, Siim Land. Most people use it as Slim Land, but it's Siim Land.
Nice.
And other, like on other platforms like Facebook and Instagram, I'm also Siim Land. My website is siimland.com. I have a few books on Amazon, especially on keto. You can check them out, and a few video courses on Udemy as well under Siim Land. And that's it. Yeah,
Mhm.
Siim Land online.
Brilliant. I'll leave your links in the description. So, yeah, I'd just like to say thank you for coming on the show. It was an absolute pleasure having you.
It was definitely fun for me as well.
All right, awesome.
Thank you.
And I'm going to hit the